we're going through, so we're in summer and we're going through these three kings, right? The first three kings of Israel, the most well-known ones in Israel, the ones that like you know about, certainly David. And we're looking at their lives, again, not as like a history lesson, though there certainly is history, but we're looking at their lives as a mirror, as a way to show us ourselves. We look at them and say, man, I think the same things, or I've done the same things, or I think the same way, I felt the same thing, or I look at them and go, man, I don't want to commit that same mistake, even though I know that. And so this morning we're looking at the life of David, and we're still at a place where David is not king yet. So David he's slayed Goliath. That's done, right? He did that last week, and now we're looking at like kind of the follow up to his life. But we're looking at a place in the kingdom and in the history of Israel where Saul is still king, and he will be king for a while. And it's not like a relay race where you hand the baton and it's like, hey, we're all on the same team, and I'm ending, and now it's your turn to take over. That's not at all how this handoff works. That's not how a lot of like kings like transfer power. Instead, Solomon is going to be king for a while. David has been told he's going to be king, but it's still not there yet. So instead of like a handoff, it's like, oh, there's an overlap in which David is going to be king, but Saul's still the king, and we're in that part. Like we're in the conflict stage where it's not going well. And so we start this morning by asking a question that honestly, if you have kids, if you raised kids, if you have kids, honestly of any age, but really when they're young, or even grandkids, you see them, you have been faced with this question. And that's this: what do you do when life isn't, here it comes, ready? Fair. Have you heard that word, raising kids, ever, right? If like when the kids, like the kids will start talking about, well, that they'll say this. You've heard this 100 times. That isn't fair. Right? Whatever the thing is. And it's always whatever they don't like. Like if it's unfair in their favor, it's like, well, too bad. Right? But if it's unfair towards them, it's that isn't fair. And they learn to say this, I think, as soon as they learn words. Like this seems to be the thing, as soon as they know what fairness is, it's like, oh, I will say that all the time. Like I will tell my parents all the time, that isn't fair. Like, for instance, you have kids of different ages, so they probably have different bedtimes. That isn't fair, right? We put the younger one down early, and our high schoolers, like, hey, he gets to stay up. He's not going to bed at 8 or 8:30. Like, it's night time. I'm come tuck you in, buddy. And that isn't fair, right? And here's the thing: like when it comes to like when we become adults, it would be great if that went away. But you still have moments in which you're like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. And you have to do this. Like this is so hard. You have to listen to your own advice to your kids, because your response, right? This has been my response. I remember this was my dad's response was, well, that just isn't fair, Dad. And then here it is, ready? And you've said this, I know you have. I don't know how you parent, but I know you've said this. Well, honey, you already know it, right? Life isn't fair. And it's like, well, yeah, and then you grow up and you have to remind yourself when you're like, oh, it's not fair. But don't you remember what you told your kids? Isn't it still true? Life isn't fair. And I don't know how we got to the point where we expect the default of life to be fairness. Like, what in life has made you come to the conclusion, oh, it should be fair? You have lived life, and especially the older you get, and the more like the more injustice you experience, the more unfairness you experience personally, you know and realize, oh, life, that's an expression, life isn't fair. No, it really isn't fair. Life is not about fairness. And I'll take it even a step further. when we think about life being fair, can you point to a person in here who experienced a fair life? Think of the extent of the Bible knowledge that you have wherever you are. Maybe you're new to faith and you're still learning. Maybe you've been around for decades and you're like, I've heard more sermons than I can count. All right, of all the Bible characters, of all the people we read about, all right, which one of them would you go, oh yeah, they totally had it fair? So all of the people, and by the way, it's none, right? Okay, zero. All of the people in here experience injustice and unfairness. All right. Now we can go a step further. Is there a passage in here? Not even just the life, but a passage. Is there a verse that you could point to in which we're told life is going to be fair? Is there one verse? Now, the flip side, are there any verses that speak about injustice? Oh boy, of life not being fair. So we, like the Bible that we live our lives on, doesn't say life will be fair. The people that are in it, the people who wrote it, didn't say life will be fair. There's not a verse in here that speaks about, hey, expect life to be fair and everything to just be right. Never will anything ever go wrong. That doesn't exist. And yet, in our lives, somehow we expect fairness. We expect to be treated, we want to be treated fairly, but then it goes a step further. When we aren't treated fairly, it's like, well, that's unfair. And we remind ourselves, but hold on. But life is unfair. I mean, literally is unfair. So what do you do when life is unfair? When someone attacks you, when maybe they spread lies about you, rumors about you, attack your character, someone undermines you, and you didn't deserve it. When someone spreads rumors about you, and it's not because you did them, it's because they want to take you down. Maybe it's because you're successful and they want you to suffer. Maybe it's just simply this. It's just simply we have this sense in us that if the other person is doing well, then that means we can't be doing well. They're taking it from us. And so what happens, like, think about this. So if you have a business, or even just work for a business, and if you have any level of competition, or any business in general in which like someone does what you do. Someone does what you do, whatever you do. And they're doing really good at it. They are very successful. They're super effective and efficient and like, man, they get the contract that you didn't get and like their growth is higher, is like they're growing, year over year faster than you are. Maybe they started their business or started working after you did, but they've already progressed further than you and like they are successful. And they're not flaunting it. You just know. You look at them, you're like, oh man, they got more. And here's what happens. Like you hear about it and you go, I'm so happy for you. Like that feeling where it's like, oh, that's just great. So cool how you get everything, right? You're like, that's life, honey. And then you go home, honey, life is unfair, right? Maybe someone gets a promotion or something. You're like, it's not right. It's unfair. Because we see other people's success as competition. This happens in every industry, by the way, including, you ready for this? I'm gonna just kind of, let you peek behind the curtain a little bit here, including the church world. I'll go to conferences and hang out with other pastors and stuff, and they're great, and it's wonderful, and all that stuff. But here's what happens. Pastors are deeply competitive. And what happens is this, like people you don't know, I've never met before, and like, oh, hey, how's it going? Maybe sitting at a discussion table or you're at a breakout or something, and they'll go, oh, where are you from? Oh, so-and-so, I'm from here. Oh, cool, where are you from? Bend, Oregon. Oh, cool, you got a church. How long you been at your church? Blah, blah, blah. How long you been doing? Okay, and you do the 30-second resume, kind of like, whatever. And here's what happens, ready? They'll go, oh, so how big is your church? Oh, here we go. Sizing me up. Okay. All right. I know what's happening. I already know what's going on. Right? Because the size of your church determines how good of a pastor you are, how effective you are in the church world, right? So they'll go, so what are you running on a Sunday, right? And you're like, okay. And sometimes I admit, like, I probably am not the greatest conversationalist in this scene, because I'm like, I don't care about the comparative stuff. So I'll go, sometimes, not always, but I'll give them a range, just to throw them off. And I'll go, we're on a random Sunday, anywhere, between maybe 500 and like 3,000. And they're like, how's that possible, right? How can that be, right? And it's like, it's not really, but like, what's your real number? And like, man, hey, it doesn't matter, like, and then they'll be like, well, here, and then they kind of like sheepishly give their number to be like, are you more or less? Yeah, we're about like 750 and a half, and you're like. And it's just, and here's it's such a funny thing. Like, even in ministry, you're like, and I'll see guys do this when your church is larger, your budget's larger, you're just casual talking, and then they're like, oh, that's cool. I'm at the wrong table. You're like, and here's what, it gets even worse, okay? Ready? Now here's really a peek behind the curtain. It's way worse if you're in the same city. Because think about this, all right? Think about your business, whatever you do, right? You're not the only one who does what you do in town. You're not the only one, right? There's other companies, other businesses. Maybe you own the business, maybe you work for them. Maybe you're in sales and you're like, all right, whatever your business is or whatever you did, there's competition. And the other guy across town is your competition. And you don't want to speak negatively, but you don't want to praise them. Like, you don't want to send your customers to their store, right? Okay, ready? Church is no different. It can feel that way, right? If you're not careful, there are plenty of pastors who get to this point where it's like, we're going out, like, okay, just think about this. You put your business hat on and imagine you run a church and you're thinking about all the things that have to happen, because this is a business with a budget and with, expenses and electricity and lights and heat and like all the stuff, right? You got to pay for it all. So guys will go, oh man, if your church is growing, my people are going to want to go there. And you're going to get their tithe. So what happens is, instantly, like, the other person becomes competition. The other church becomes competition. And it's not right, but it happens. And guys will all the time do this. And it's like, oh man, it's just not fair. I work just much, blah, 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 but they seem to blah, blah. What do you do when life is just simply unfair? When the other business, the other thing is better and growing, or someone attacks you and it's like, man, it just isn't fair. Why do they get everything and we get nothing? What do you do when life is unfair? I see that hand. Guess what? I'm going to answer your question. Here's the thing. We're going to look at David's life, and this is crazy, okay? David has done everything right. At this point in his life, he's done everything right. David has killed Goliath, the enemy, the unconquerable enemy, and he takes him down without even lifting a sword. I mean, eventually he gets the sword for the final blow, but like with a rock, right? Which is crazy. He takes down Goliath. He becomes he serves Saul faithfully. He becomes a warrior, a soldier. He even marries into the royal family. He marries Saul's daughter. Saul, the king, becomes his father-in-law. So it's like, all right, you're doing all the right things. He becomes a national hero because of what he did for against Goliath. And now he's a known warrior. Like, this is a guy. He does everything right. He's the son that if you're the dad, you're going like, David, this is crazy what you have done with your life. I'm so proud of you. He's been faithful in every instance, and here's how he's rewarded. Ready? Saul wants to kill him. That's how he's rewarded. Like, that's so unfair. Yes, it is very unfair. David doesn't deserve any of this. And Saul, because of his jealousy, is going to go after him. What do you do? Here's what happens. He chooses to respond and not to react. And he decides ahead of time how he's going to interact with Saul instead of just reacting in the moment. And here's the point. Ready? This is for if you take one thing away from this morning, if you're writing stuff down, write this down. You can't control the wrong. You can't control the wrong that happens to you. You can't control the unfairness of the world. You can't control an injustice. You can't control what someone else does or says about you or decisions that they make that affect you. You can't control when things don't go your way. When something wrong happens to you, you can't control it. You can't. You can complain about it, but you can't control it. But you can control how you respond to it. You can't control the wrong, but you can control how you respond. So here's what we'll see. David is going to have a lot of wrongs committed against him, and he can't control it. He can't control what the king does, but he certainly can control his response. So we're going to start out, and we're going to see kind of the beginning of Saul's jealousy that eventually kind of devolves into full-out hatred of David. And it starts, this is as it begins, here's what we see. The lesson for us is this: don't let jealousy make you defensive. What happens in the business world or even the church world is you see the one that's bigger, or has more, or has more money, more budget, more bigger building, whatever it is, and all of a sudden we get jealous, and here's what happens. And I see this in my world. I'm sure you see it in yours. When you're meeting with someone who's at this happens plenty of time, more times than not, and I don't like it, but it happens. I'll meet with a pastor who's at a smaller church, and I never bring up it's never a comparison, but they'll bring it up. And what happens is they get defensive as to, well, we're this size because, and we could totally do this. And it's like, oh man, don't do that. Don't fall into the comparison thing. This happens for you too. Well, here's why my life's like this, and it should be like this, and they're doing better. But and what happens is we start to defend why we aren't as successful as them. And what happens is this: it's not our fault. It's circumstances, it's luck, it's opportunity, it's the people they know, or do you know who his dad is? Of course he gets a leg up. And it's like, it's just kind of life is just unfair. And you're like, yeah, it is unfair. Okay, now complain about it or control how you respond to it. And what happens is jealousy makes us defensive. When you get jealous, you get defensive. You get jealous in a relationship. This happens all the time in relationships, right? Your spouse or your partner, if you're dating or you're engaged or something, they talk to someone. This is what happens. Okay, can I just speak to human nature? Now, I've never felt this, ever. Your significant other, your person that you're with, is talking to someone of your same gender, the opposite gender of them, right? In this case, my wife is talking to another guy. All right, hey, I'm fine with it, no big deal, unless I size him up, and he is at least 2 points more attractive than me. That's a problem. Wait a minute. Why are you talking to this guy, right? What's going on? Why are you smiling? And all of a sudden, you're just going what is that? Where did that come from, right? You're like, I don't care. But also, you can't talk to him anymore. And that happens in relationships all the time, especially when you're dating, right? Why are you talking to her? Why'd you look at her? I was looking at the menu, and then she asked what I wanted to order. You didn't have to look at her. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, right? Jealousy makes us defensive. And what we're going to see is Saul has that experience. Here's what happens, okay? Ready? And remember, as we go through, this is a real event, real history. This really happened. So what I like to do is when I read narrative and I read especially stories in the Bible, I place myself there. What would I be thinking? What would I be seeing? What would I be feeling? What emotions? What would I be like? Oh, dang, I can't believe they said that. And place yourself there, right? That changes the story. Okay, here we go. In 1 Samuel 18, verse 6, it says this: when the men were returning home after David killed the Philistine. So David killed Goliath, and now they're coming home, and it's awesome, right? Now we celebrate. Look at this, okay? This is a real story. This is how it works. The women came out from all the towns. Yeah, they did. They sure did, right? And here's what happens. So the women come from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing. The king is home and it's singing. It's like, yeah, that's right, right? Saul, I'm the man. And the ladies come out, right? And it says this. They sing and dance with joyful songs and timbrels and lyres and instruments and stuff. And here we go, ready? And as they danced, they sang, here's the song, Saul has slain his thousands. And then they give a little side eye. But David's got tens of thousands. You know that's how it happened, right? Saul has killed his thousands, but David, hey, Dave, hey, still available, right? Just let me know if you want to go on a date. I'll change my schedule for you, Dave. David has killed his tens of thousands. They're singing David's praise at 10x Saul's, right? Woo. Saul, here we go. Saul was very angry. Makes sense. He's the king. He can have whatever he wants. He gets whatever he wants. But he can't get their praise like he gets like David does. And he's like, oh no. Saul's very angry. And this refrain, this lyric in this song displeased him greatly. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the whole kingdom? If this keeps up, he's gonna get everything. They're gonna give him everything. They like him more than me. They sing his praises more than me. And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on this David guy. Now, they haven't killed tens of thousands or thousands. This is just hyperbole, right? They're not like counting up how many they've actually killed. It's just simply praise on them and Saul, though it's just a lyric of a song. He's like, all right, Dave, I'm watching you. And all of a sudden, this jealousy, this anger that he gets, the Hebrew word for the anger here is this burning wrath within, that he starts to burn with anger towards David from within because of what other people said about him. Not because David was saying, I've killed tens of thousands, you're only 1,000. David wasn't doing any of that. He was probably just a guy walking in and they're like, where's David? David, we know David. All right, David killed Goliath. All right, and they just sing his praise because he did the thing he was supposed to do, defeat the enemy that no one else wanted to face, and he conquered and he took him out easily. And now he's punished for it. Life, this just isn't fair. That's right, it isn't fair. You can't control the wrong, but you can control your response. And this wrong happens. David, he never sought to outshine Saul, but this insecurity turns to paranoia, turns to anger, and eventually we're going to see it turns to Saul trying to end David's life, to take him out. You do your best at work. You're productive. You're efficient. You've got the most sales. You close the most accounts. You build the most things. Whatever the job is, right? And you have the best quarter. You're the employee of the month. Whatever the thing is, you're like, I'm doing the thing I'm supposed to do. I'm the model worker. I'm like what everyone else, like what my boss, if I was a manager, this is how I would want my employees to do, to work, is to be efficient and effective like me, to do their work, to do the best they can, and I'm doing it. Awesome. And what you get is people going, dude, you think you're better than us? You trying to outwork us? You trying to kiss up to the boss? You're like, no, I'm just doing a good job. I'm trying to do my best. Well, it's too good, buddy. You need to do worse. You're making us look bad. And all of a sudden, for doing the right thing, other people are looking at you as competition and get defensive. And that's this experience with David. It can be like this too. If you have a sibling, anyone have a sibling, brother, sister, multiple? And you're like, yeah, all right, great. Okay, you love your siblings? Yeah, when they're not in town, they're great. This happens when you're kids. When one of your siblings gets praise for a thing that they did, and you feel like somehow your parents don't appreciate and love you as much. So this is what happens, right? They do something, and it can be silly. Like they they go on the swing for the first time, and they jump off and land and catch themselves, and they're like, oh, and you're like, great job, that was really cool. Mom's like, don't ever do that again. Dad's like, go higher. And then what happens? The brother is like, well, I can do that too. Well, see what I can do? And like what happens, like even a sibling rivalry thing is a real thing. And the more one accomplishes, the less the other one feels like they're as appreciated or cared for by their parents, and they live in their shadow, and that moves on to adulthood. And those like kid relationships, you become adults and it's still there. And there'll be times you can be 40, 50 years old, and they'll be like, well, do you remember when we were 11 and you blah, blah, blah? And you're like, what? You've been thinking about that for 30 years? Wow, okay. Because it sticks with, like it sticks with us. This like defensiveness and jealousy, it's there. And it creates this narrative that they're better and I'm worse. And this is what happens. This insecurity builds resentment, and this is what happens. Saul is watching David steal the show. Well, this is a problem. Now, here's for us. Are you, in your life, maybe interpreting someone else's success as a threat to yourself? As a threat to maybe your identity, to your business, to the amount of affection you get? Are you interpreting someone else doing what they're supposed to do as a means of like, oh, this is not looking good for me? Ooh, that's the beginning of this defensiveness and this reacting instead of responding. Don't let jealousy make you defensive. So David didn't deserve what Saul did in his hatred, and it didn't go away. It gets worse. And then here's what happens. David has the opportunity that you and I, that we dream of. David gets the opportunity to get revenge. David has the opportunity to get back and to once and for all sort of like make what was wrong right. Ooh. And here's what we're going to see. Ready? This is going to be hard for us. I know it's going to be hard for you. Here it is. Don't confuse opportunity with permission. Just because you can do that thing doesn't mean you should do that thing. Just because an opportunity is given to you, is handed to you, falls in your lap, it doesn't even mean that God wants you to do it, or that God put it there, or that it would be helpful for you. So many times we can think like in our life, God is directing things, and so any opportunity that comes up must be from him. He did this, and he wants me to do this thing. Hold on. That might not be the case. Just because don't let opportunity mean that this is permission, that I have permission to do this because this is, now we'll talk about specifics here, like examples in life, but just look at this story, okay? So we're gonna jump now a few chapters, a lot happens. Saul's jealousy of David grows and grows and grows and gets worse and worse, and to the point where Saul is now, I'm ready to take David out. David at this point has married Saul's daughter. He's in. Listen, this is David. Everyone knows David. Like the stories are growing about him, and he's becoming a great warrior. Like he's he's got a reputation. All right. Here's what happens. 1 Samuel chapter now 24. After Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, so they're still at war with the Philistines, Saul comes back. He was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 able young men from all Israel. All right, Israel, hey, I need your strong men. 3,000 of them, and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. Okay, so imagine you're one of these guys. You get called into service. You're like, hey, king needs me, mom. Got to go. All right, what's my mission? We're going after David. You mean like our greatest champion, David? You mean like the guy who took out Goliath, David? Like the guy I want to work for, David? Can he be my general? Can he be my commander? We're going after that guy? Yes, I'm the king. Do you want to live or not? I like living. So they go after David, and they go to this place, En-Gedi. Now, En-Gedi, this place is important. So if you go to Israel, you can go visit En-Gedi. And En-Gedi is in the middle of the desert. There's nothing. There's nothing for miles and miles and miles. and until you get to this place, it's an oasis. Go back, start at the beginning. And so there's nothing around, and then there's this a natural spring that produces this river that just kind of waterfalls over and over. And so there's nothing around for miles and miles, and then you show up and there's just water and trees and vegetation. You're going like, what is going on? And then go to the next one, and then there's, what happens is families will go here. So this is like, you know how we float the river? It's like, that's what you do. You probably floated this year, or you're gonna float. All right, you go to En-Gedi to ride the waterfall. So there's waterfalls, go to the next one. There's these cascading like waterfalls. There's dozens and dozens of them, and they've gone through enough where they've kind of created like almost like a track in some of the areas. And so you'll see, like, you'll be on this hike because you're in Israel, and you're like, you're dressed to like go explore, and like, oh, we're on this adventure, and we're like learning about the Bible. And then you see like families and kids with floaties, and you're just like, whee, sliding, and you're like, what is going on? It's like an adventure. So here's, and these are huge, like some of these are really big. So there's a super cool guy. Who's laughing? You laugh at a picture of me? Just, all right, go to the next photo, please. Okay, so leave it on this one. So this is like what it looks like, all right? So you go up to En-Gedi, and there's it's the ravine that's kind of carved by this natural river from the spring. And around it, you can kind of see in the hills there, all of these caves. And you can't count them all. It just goes on, there's so much. And so as we come to this story, and you're like, all right, this is the place. This is quite literally the place. Probably not one of those caves, but in this area, somewhere here is where this next story takes place, right? So David is here. It makes sense because you need water, and so of course you find water. Everyone knows En-Gedi is this place, and so all right, you go there. All right, so he chases David here. He's in this place. All right, here's what it says. He came to the sheep pens along the way, and a cave was there. All right, there's literally dozens and dozens of caves. You can't count them all. And Saul went in to use a restroom. All right? This, by the way, there's no porta potties, there's no toilets. So this is thousands of years ago, this is what you did. You just found a private cave and you took care of it, all right? So he goes in to use the restroom. He just picks a cave. He's got 3,000 men all there, all looking for David. He's just like, hey guys, all right, I'm gonna go out of the heat, I'm gonna go in the shade, I'm gonna go, relieve myself. Okay, David and his men, look at this. We're far back in the cave. Okay, imagine you're one of David's guys, and you're like, that's Saul, he found us. No, never mind, he's doing something else. You're like, oh, you're going like, this is it. If he turns around, we're done. The men said, look at this. This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give you your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish. So they look at this and go, this is God putting this opportunity in front of you. God told you he's going to deliver your enemy. Saul is your enemy. He's right there, and he's busy. And he can't run very fast right now. You can take him out easily. You will never have as easy a kill as this. David, this is it. This is what God spoke of. David, all right? Here's what it says. Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He's probably like, all right, guys, watch this. Like Navy SEAL, he's probably got a knife in his teeth, he's like a pirate. And he crawls up, and they're like, get him. Cuts off a robe, turns around, and they're like, that was the wrong spot to cut. And he comes back. And you can imagine his guys being like, this ends all of our trouble. Now, something happens, right? So this is the day the Lord spoke of. David knows better. He cuts the robe, and cutting the robe is significant because the robe is the symbol of the kingdom. This is the king. This is his anointing. He is the. You cut off a robe is like, all right, this is symbolic of me cutting into your kingdom and your authority. So David does that. Yet even that, David goes, was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. That was too much. Here's what it says. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off the corner of his robe. He said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lay my hand on him, for he is the anointed of the Lord. With these words, David sharply rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. The phrase here, the Lord forbid, reflects his deep reverence for God's authority. Like, God, he does not allow me to raise a hand against the man he put in place. And he turns to his men and he's like, guys, this is not our job. This opportunity you see that God put in front of us is not permission. We do not have permission to raise a hand against the guy that God himself installed as the king. Whoa. You talk about a level of restraint. And here's the thing, okay? This is what you have to know. Killing a king was not a problem. Killing a king, in fact, when you go through history and you look at like a history of like just kingdoms and kings, killing a king was not a bad thing. Because now a new king comes. And it's probably the one who did the killing. It's probably the one who created the uprising. It's probably the one who led the coup, who goes after, who kills the king, and everyone's like, well, if you were good enough to able to take him out, then you're clearly stronger, smarter, better. You're our new king. David would have zero consequences if he killed Saul. The entire nation would be like, finally, what were you waiting for? Now you can be our king. Fine, we got a good guy. The good guy took out the bad guy. Awesome. And David says, that's not my job. That's not my call. Oof. David has this incredible restraint. And so here's what we learn. We can easily think that because we have opportunity, that means we should do it. Maybe you've been treated unfairly, mistreated. Maybe you've been in a position where someone has spread lies or rumors or mistruths about you, and you're in a position with the info that you have to do something about it. You're in a position maybe where, in the business we say, where the bodies are buried, so to speak. Like you have enough private info to say like, hey, you don't want to do this. Like, stop. Don't accuse me of this when you're the one doing it. And in that moment, what do? It's hard in that moment to go, I can go public and get sweet revenge, but is that your fight? Maybe you're offered a job with better pay, but questionable ethics and leadership, and you know it. It's understood. But it comes with a 20% bump. And you're like, I think 20%, honey, that's pretty good. I can turn a blind eye. I'm not the one doing the things. I'm just gonna not look at it. Is that the thing? Is that how you have the opportunity to take the job, but should you? You have the opportunity to get back, but should you? David looks at this and says, it's not my job. And then we see this. He restrains himself, but then he's going to do this. He's going to confront Saul, and he's going to speak with honor, not hatred. You and I always speak with honor, never hate. Here's what happens. Then David went out of the cave and called out to Saul. You can imagine David's guys being like, what are you doing? All right, if you're not going to take him out, that's fine, but don't go present yourself in front of him. So David goes out. He called out to Saul, my Lord, the king. When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. He's face down on the ground now in humility. I fully submit. I am not trying to attack you in any way. I am not even looking at you. He said to Saul, why do you listen when men say David is bent on harming you? This day you have seen with your own eyes, look at this, how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. So he even says, God brought you to my cave. That would seem like permission. And it was a test. And God brings you to my cave and presents you, and I have this opportunity, and yet, he says this, some urged me to kill you. Saul's like, which some? Like, they're still back there. But it wasn't me. But I spared you. I said, I will not lay a hand on my Lord because he is the Lord's anointed. He's got this, he's now going before Saul. He's like, hey, you're trying to kill me, here I am. And I'm not gonna fight back. I could have taken you out, but I'm not going to do it. This is not a competition between you and me. See, he says, my father, he's literally father-in-law, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but did not kill you. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me. But think about the strength. But my hand will not touch you. Listen, you have wronged me, and may God judge you for that, but I will not. Whoa. As the old saying goes, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you. He's like, I don't want to be an evildoer. I will not do this thing. I could have, but I will not. David, even when he's being defamed and his character is being destroyed and he is being hunted down quite literally like an animal to be killed, when all of this is happening, he still speaks with honor, though truthful and firm, not hatred. May the Lord judge between you and me. He says, I'm choosing restraint, not retaliation. Today, you and I, we don't use swords, right? I mean, I could give you a sword and be like, go for it. And you'd be like, I don't know what to do with this, right? Slap. We don't use swords. But we do use things far worse. We use words. Words are far more dangerous than swords. You could cut me with a sword, and assuming it's not a fatal blow, like, I'll heal, whatever, I'll get a cool scar, nice story. But with words, you can ruin someone's life. You can change the trajectory of the rest of their life with the sounds you make. That's crazy. That's real power. So you and I then, we have power in these words. James talked all about this. That the tongue is like, who can tame it? It's a forest fire. It's like a rudder of a ship. It's like it can control everything. And we have not just words now. In our society, we have posts and texts, emails, social media. It's super awesome. Everything about social media is wonderful. And we see people take their lives because of what other people post online about them. That's how powerful these things are. We don't use swords, but we certainly get back to people with what we say and what we write. So you and I then, we ask, all right, are you using your words, these words that you know them, that have crazy authority? Are you using these words as harsh weapons or to heal wounds? Because your words can do both. Your words can cut someone down, or they can bring healing to what has been cut down, to what someone else said about them. How are you using your words? Don't cross me or else. Or, hey, even when I'm wronged, it's not my job. It's not my job to get even. Always speak with honor, never hate. So how do you control your response? Here you go, ready? First, release the urge to defend yourself. This is so natural. We have it from a young age. They started it, right? They started it, and you're like, okay, all right, I know what that means. It means you want to get even, and you want to defend yourself. Resist. Listen, you have to release this desire to say, I'm going to defend myself. And you have to recognize, okay, this is what a mature, godly person does. Here's how you know if you have reached the level of like discipleship level maturity. When you say this, God knows, He sees and He knows, He understands the situation, He understands me, and that's enough for me. God sees and knows. All right, God, that's enough for me. I don't feel the need to defend myself against all of this. All right, Lord, okay, you be the judge. And then this, you resist shortcuts to vindication, to retribution, to revenge. This is so hard for us because the natural thing is like, I'm coming. Shouldn't have done that. And instead, what you do is you recognize I need to trust God's timing. And here's the thing, ready? Paul says this in the New Testament. He says, vengeance is of the Lord. So don't repay evil with evil, but repay evil with good. Vengeance is of the Lord. It's his job. And here's the thing, okay? And this is not popular. Like, you're not going to hear this sermon online or like on TV, but here it is. Ready? God is really good at vengeance. He's really good at it. God is really good at making sure people get what they deserve. And listen, he's way better than you at it. So when we say like, oh, this isn't right, this is unjust, God's going, I know, and I'll make it right. You let me make it right. Can you do that? And you say, all right. It's your job to make it right. This is not, now listen, this does not mean we stand down in the face of injustice, okay? So I don't want you to interpret this as like, so we never take a stand? No, of course we take stands against injustice. Injustice, like standing up for justice and against injustice is different than revenge. That's different than, you wrong me, I'm coming after you so hard, you will wish you never done that. You will wish you were never born after I'm done. Like, it's just tagline after tagline, and you're like, what are you really gonna do? All right. That attitude you have to resist that desire. And then you respond with integrity, not emotion. You respond with saying, this is the kind of person I am, this is who I am, and whatever happens in life, the wrongs that are committed against me, all right, I can't control the wrongs, but I can control how I respond, and I will respond with character and integrity, not with how I feel in the moment. Not this how I feel, this either frustration or anger or hatred or disdain or whatever it is. Like, I don't want to respond like that. And then this is so opposite of what we're told and what culture has. Society today is like, get them back. Hey, get them back. Post a thing, right? Cancel them, whatever. Cancel culture. Post a thing. Show this, whatever. Ruin their life. Doesn't matter. Whatever it takes. This is not that. And so many people, and if this is you, I'm sorry to do this, but here we go. So many people almost have a sense of pride about this. They'll say things like this, well, I just wear my heart on my sleeve. I tell it like it is. Oh, do you? Yeah, listen, if you're around me, you get to know me, you don't have to wonder what I'm thinking. Yes, we all know. And it's like your life is guided by how you feel, and it's a source of pride, like, hey, listen, I'm just gonna do what I think and how I feel. And you're going like, man, my kids do that. My little kids live that way. At some point, you grow up and say, there's a better way to do this. And it's not just being controlled by your emotions, but instead, you learn to respond instead of react. So you can't control the wrong. When someone wrongs you, when life wrongs you, the unfairness, you can't control that. But you can control how you respond. Would you do this? Would you stand with me? And then we're going to worship together. What is seen in David's life, what many people would have seen as weakness, was not weakness. This restraint is not weakness. This is power under control. And this sets up David to become the greatest king in the history of Israel, because he learns what it's like to stand up against and in spite of injustice and say, I trust God more than I want revenge. We pray with me. So Lord, help us to be people who release this desire to always be defensive and defending ourselves, instead to know that you're the one we're aiming to please, and you know us. Help us resist this urge to find revenge and to get even. And help us to respond and live in integrity, not emotion, with what we know is right, not how we feel in the moment. We thank you, Lord. We worship you now. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.